Now here's the man that needs no introduction.
Hey everybody, it's Jim here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hey everybody, it's Jim here.
I've always wanted to do this.
Hey everybody, it's Jim here.
What's your connection to Parkinson's disease?
Hey everybody, it's Jim here.
Sorry, that's my foot.
I'll do better next time. Hey everybody, it's Jim here. Welcome back to the Spinning Wheels Parkinson's Conversation with Jim here. Very excited about today's podcast. But before we begin, just want to remind you, the podcast is brought to you in part by PDT. The power of tea applied to Parkinson's. Check it out at pdt.com. Today's guest, we met last year in New Brunswick while we were cycling across the country. I knew nothing about him, but knew as soon as I got his first email and we started joking about what tricks we were going to play on Mike and Steve, knew that I was going to like him a lot. And as it turns out, I really do. From Riverview, New Brunswick, I'd like to welcome Greg Hicks. Greg, thanks for being here, man.
Thank you very much for having me.
No problem. Okay, let's jump right into this. Greg, tell us about your connection to Parkinson's disease.
In 2018, my office job got moved overseas. It just happened we had a family friend that just lived up the street from me, not far away, and he just came down with Parkinson's, and they were looking for someone to be his caretaker. It was more of a companionship thing at that moment. I would take him out walking to the mall and take him to various activities and appointments. When I first started with Ralph, was still, still walking on his own, still doing, he could do quite a bit. But gradually, over the next couple of years, I sadly got to see some of the bad side of Parkinson's as he started to slow down, because he also had Lewy body dementia. I got to learn an awful lot quick, because like I said, originally when I started, it was really mainly a companionship idea. But his wife helped train me, and basically I was into nursing towards the end of it, because as his condition deteriorated, he obviously needed more and more personal help. I learned from the ground up, because when I went in, I really didn't know much about Parkinson's. I knew Michael J. Fox. I was a big fan of his and Family Ties kid growing up. So I was just naturally assumed Parkinson's was pretty much all just about shaking. But I learned since then there's a lot more to it. Everybody has their own battles.
What was one of the things that surprised you when you were working with Ralph?
To me, was the learning all about the freezing. I remember the first time, I was out with Ralph walking along fairly, normally, and all of a sudden he couldn't move. I actually asked him one day, explain it as much as he could, because to me, it's natural. You walk, you don't really think about it. You don't think about why your right foot moves and your left foot moves. It just, if you don't have Parkinson's, it does.
Yeah.
And so suddenly to see this concept and like you could see that he was trying to move it, and it wasn't like he wanted this to happen. And it was really surprising. And really back to 2020 when COVID entered the world, and as we all know, that changed things for many people, because I could no longer take him to a lot of the places where he used to go for exercise. Like the mall was basically shopping only. He was, at that time, he had started into a Rock City boxing program that was closed with COVID. And so basically there was really very few spots we could go. So Ralph decided that he wanted to start walking laps in his driveway. If I remember right, the first day he went out with his wife, he did, we'll say 7 laps or so up and down the driveway. Anyway, he wanted to get up to 30 laps. It was to be around 100 days. Within about a week, he was already up to his 30 laps. His wife came to me and asked, is there anything you think that we could do? I started looking online, and kind of that's at the time when I discovered Superwalk. To be honest, I had never heard of Superwalk at that point. During that time, we actually met Superwalk team, and they out of a gym in Ottawa called Boxing for Health. So we became really kind of close with them. They really admired Ralph's story. The captain of their team, Joey, really took to Ralph. We made a kind of a nice connection with them. First, I was just going to do my own event, but then we decided, after talking to someone at Parkinson's Canada, we actually decided to add it in as part of the Superwalk. That year is kind of, because they were all doing virtual Superwalks all across the country. That became our kind of big connection to the Parkinson's community at that point, was when we suddenly started this little walk that ended up actually raising with over $30,000 before it was done. Ralph walked his 100 days. He got featured on national news network. He became the Superwalk national hero. It brought quite a bit of Parkinson press anyway to little Riverview, New Brunswick.
From day one, did you ever anticipate that you and Ralph would get to day 300?
No. I suppose when he said he was going to get to his 100 days and do his 30 laps, that didn't necessarily surprise me. But the fact that he kept going well beyond, and it wasn't always pretty getting him out there. There was days that poor Ralph could only do maybe 1 or 2 laps of that driveway, but he still went out there and did it. It was a challenge, I'm sure, for him. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine, honestly, what he had to really go through to do what he did, because it was a struggle sometimes for me and his wife to get him out there. But again, that was only minor still compared to the struggle I'm sure he was enduring to actually have to get out there. But for him, it was important.
It's an amazing story.
His wife actually asked him what the thing that he was most thankful for. His answer was Parkinson's, which threw her kind of for a loop for a second. But he then went on to explain that without Parkinson's, he wouldn't have been able to have made that difference and reached out and got that many people. He was an inspiration, and he's really the reason why that I still do this today, even though now that he has passed on. Losing Ralph was a hard time.
And that was one of my questions. So unfortunately, Ralph passed. And then you started working with another guy with Parkinson's, Jim. And what kind of difference do you think you make?
I do hope that, I am making some difference, make somebody feel as normal as possible for as long as possible.
How is your definition broadened by working with Ralph and Jim?
A patience was in me, first of all, to be able to work with Parkinson's, especially as it progressed with Ralph. It became more difficult. There was more involved in the actual caretaking. First of all, and again, value everybody. You don't know what anybody's, whether it's Parkinson's, whether it's cancer, we don't know what others are going through. So you really just have to value people for who they are and try to respect them. And I've learned that the Parkinson's community is a very tight-knit and, for the most part, are very supportive of one another. I talked earlier about just how we connected even with the Ottawa group from Ralph and just how I've become friends with them even now, even after Ralph has passed on. And actually, I am, even this year, I still advise a little bit, even though I'm running the Superwalk down here, I'm still kind of on their committee too, even though they've kind of pretty much given me this year off.
That looks very nice of them.
Yes, it was. And Boxing for Health is a program, which actually we now have one in Riverview, which I had absolutely nothing to do with bringing here. It just happened somebody else. One of the gym owners here had an interest. Her father-in-law has Parkinson's, so she was looking for a program to bring here for exercise. And ironically, she reached out to this gym in Ottawa.
Hold on, I'm Jim confused. We've got Jim, the host from Ottawa. We've got the gym in Ottawa that hosts the Boxing for Health. We've got Jim, Greg's new client. We've got the gym in Riverview that does Boxing for Health. Okay, I've got the gym straight. Please, do continue. I'm sorry for the interruption.
The Ottawa Boxing for Health team actually asked me to join kind of as an honorary member. And actually, Ralph was made an honorary member. And then in 2022, we started in the same thing. But about a few months into it, one of the people on the team in Ottawa mentioned that they thought that maybe we kind of need if I did a kind of a team down here in memory of Ralph. That's what we ended up doing, raising a few $1,000 and meeting up with a team in Bucktooth, New Brunswick, which is about 45 minutes away. And they were having a walk out on this lovely little dunes over a beach. It kind of just worked out well. It was a perfect sunny day. So we ended up joining up and doing last year's Superwalk with them.
You reached out to us last year and said, hey, you know what, can you swing by? And of course, the answer was yes. And to be honest with you, In the back of my head, I knew about Ralph Richardson, but it wasn't flicking in until like the day before we got there. And then I realized, who Ralph Richardson was and what he was doing, and then what we were going to do.
And here's the ever popular segment, Jim's Spinning Wheels Tour Flashback.
So we rode into Riverview, right? And you had it all set up, and we were at Ralph's house, and we got to the mayor was there, and Ralph's family was there, and some people from the Bucktouche Superwalk team were there, and we did a couple of laps of that driveway that Ralph used to do, and I'm telling you, that was such a highlight of the tour. It really was. It's something that I'll never forget.
Now we're rolling around to 2023. And now that we have this gym in Riverview, I went and talked to some of the boxers there as well. I'm working with Jim. He goes to the boxing program. So I mentioned it to some of the boxers, and they seemed interested. And we formed our own little Superwalk team here in Riverview for this year. And we're going to actually be walking on September 9th, right down by the river.
This Superwalk team that you have organized, right? It's a every year Parkinson Canada Superwalk happens. If someone out there wants to donate to the Riverview team, how do they do that?
If you go to the Superwalk website,
Yeah,
your best bet would probably be to search for the Boxing for Health Superwalk Team Riverview.
hey everybody. Wow, I would like to thank Greg Hicks from Riverview, New Brunswick, for coming on the Spinning Wheels Parkinson's Conversation with Jim here podcast. Right, Greg is like a rock in his community. Doesn't have Parkinson's. Just started off by working with someone with Parkinson's, right, and has expanded his knowledge and has expanded involvement in the community for Parkinson's. And wow, we need a lot more people like Greg. So I'd like to say thank you very much to Greg for coming on the podcast, for sharing his Parkinson's story. Good luck working with Jim. Good luck on the Superwalk. We really hope it's successful. Hey, if you could just share this episode or this podcast with one other person, we would sincerely appreciate that. Just one person. Say, hey, check this out. Until next time, keep spinning, everybody.
His first comments was, "It tastes awful." And, that maybe that works for cough syrup, but it shouldn't be the case for tea. So PDT tastes nice.